Welcome to What's Your I Can Conversations, the podcast that brings the pages of What's Your I Can, realize your I Can in purpose, business, and family to life. I am your host, Christy Angeli, media personality, businesswoman, writer, and all the things. And I am delighted to have you join us on this journey. Get ready because we are here to amplify the voices of single moms, celebrate their achievements, challenge stereotypes, raise awareness, and more. But that's not all. In addition to our regular episodes, which was the original What's Your I Can Conversations, we have added, of course, two different segments. And the latest segment is the Kidpreneur, where we make room for our children and teens, where we hear from young entrepreneurs as they share their inspiring stories or their journeys. Through these conversations, we aim to foster a deeper connection with God, a vital element as we collectively reimagine our future together. However, we are going back to our original conversation and how this all started, talking about breaking the stereotypes and changing the status quo. And so today, I am thrilled to introduce you to our guest, the incredible Rae Lee. As a writer and children's author, Rae Lee is a passionate advocate for the impact of books on a child's mind. She knows that reading opens countless doors, from igniting creativity and imagination to sparking discovery, exploration, and understanding. Rae Lee's own passion for writing and her love for travel and family enrich her storytelling. So, without further ado, let's dive right in. Miss Rae Lee,
Hello,
thank you
hello,
so
hello.
much.
Thank you so much for
Yes,
having me. Christy. I appreciate this.
you are so welcome. I am excited to have you. I'm excited to hear your story. I'm excited to see how you are actually changing and helping children to unlock, barriers in their life and reclaim their life of abundance, right? You're
Absolutely.
allowing them to understand how they maneuver in the world through storytelling, through books. So let's talk a little bit about this. How did you get your start in writing children's books?
And that's one of those weird things that transpired. I love writing in general, and I always thought I'd publish something like an adult novel, right? And so few years ago, I started with my first book, Big Truck, and I was like, God, what's happening? Like, this is not my area, children books are not my area. Even though I love children books, but writing for children, that wasn't my thing. And so one day, my daughter and I were in the car, and we saw this truck going through the intersection, and I said, Big Truck, where are you going? And she says, Big Truck, where are you going? And so we started having a conversation about logistics and transportation, and how important it
Mhm.
is for children to understand, like, the importance of this and what impact it has on our lives, right? And so I said, well, maybe other children may want to know about this, but in a fun and educational way. So that's kind of how Big Truck was born. And I trusted God through this process. It has been very uncomfortable because I wasn't expecting this, and for me to publish a children's book first. I didn't expect that. So that's how it came about for sure.
Okay, so let's talk about the uncomfortableness, all right?
Yeah.
Because there are a
Yeah.
lot of people who are feeling uncomfortable about their vision, about their dream, or starting something new that's kind of like, it seems like it's taking them off the plan, but it's actually right where they need to be. And you talked about the uncomfortableness of the journey. What does that, tell me an experience that illustrates the uncomfortableness of your journey and becoming a, children's author?
Because I honestly thought that what I would write would be impactful for adults,
Mm,
right? I thought that God would
okay.
lead me down. I thought that God would be leading me down, excuse me,
Mhm.
a path where I could connect with adults with things that they were going through. And because, things that I
Mhm.
could relate to and they can relate to me. However, my love for reading overall, um, it started when I was a kid, and how much it actually made me want to know more about the world, know more about what's happening. Uh, who invented this, who invented that, right? just a history about things. And
Hmm.
so reading helped me learn so many things. And I realized that, you know, I love to see children learn and how excited they get about learning. And so it made me
Hmm.
uncomfortable because let's face it, Christy, children are brutally honest. And so an adult could kind of, um, tell you, okay, well, it really wasn't that bad.
Sugarcoat it.
Children, on the other hand, if they don't like something, they didn't find it interesting, they will let you know, in not the most nicest way. And so, so that audience was
Uh-huh.
definitely an area that I wasn't as familiar with as far as writing. So that made it really
Hmm.
uncomfortable for
Hmm.
me. But what was even more uncomfortable is realizing that God had a different path to get to the same goal, and not knowing what
Hmm.
that looked like. I thought for to write an adult novel, I knew like, okay, this is what I need to do. This is what I need to do. But this was a little bit different. And I shouldn't say a little bit. It was a lot different.
Hmm.
And trusting God through this process, um, I had to
Yeah.
say, okay, okay, I have no idea. I have no idea. So it was very uncomfortable. But
Hmm.
I'm better now.
Hmm.
Yes.
I am excited to hear that you are better now, because that gives someone else hope. It gives me hope to know that when you have to deviate from your own plans, like I know this is familiar to me. I'm sure about this. I have confidence in this. I'm pretty sure it dealt with your self-esteem. It dealt with your ability to, like wrap your mind around this because it is something so totally unfamiliar. Unfamiliar territory is what I like to call those places. But like you stated, that when God is in it, He is in those unfamiliar territories and leading and guiding you. And we just have to embrace it and, like,
Yeah.
okay, I don't know what this is all about. I don't know how it looks, but I am trusting your plan. I am putting my faith in what I am feeling led that you're calling me to do, because everything else seems to be closing. Everything else, seems not to be, panning out exactly as my blueprint. If you are an organizer, or likes to write your vision as I do, it's like, my vision says this in these steps, 1, 2, 3. I'm supposed to be, in Barnes and Nobles in this manner, with this book. I am supposed to be reaching, as you already stated. But now I am having to talk to children who say the darnest things, uh, as you stated.
Yes.
But the Word of God let us know that, when He puts us in these places, He sets our face. I think Ezekiel talks about this. He will set our face like flints, like a flintstone. He
Mm.
makes us hard to the stairs. And sometimes we think about it as just the adults. He makes our heart. Now you're telling me you have to have, an unbothered countenance about yourself when it comes to little people, comes to children. Ruthless.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. And you know what? I realized that, and what's absolutely crazy, if I had not written Big Truck, right? I went
Hmm.
to type it up and put it away. I opened up this file and it had children's stories in there, right? Because, like, I have a daughter.
Hmm.
And so, I tell her stories. And some of the stories she wanted me to write down, she liked them. And I realized I had 12 other stories, which are actually children books that
Oh,
I totally
wow.
forgot about.
Hmm.
Totally forgot because
Uh-huh.
they're stories. I told my daughter this stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't think too much of it, but opening that up really, I was like, well, wait a minute. Okay, God, maybe
Hmm.
okay. I see what you're doing here. I see what you're doing. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. So it's amazing how God takes us through uncomfortable places. And I'm going to reference, my book in this, because we look at different places that, I myself have went through uncomfortableness to find your place of purpose. And we have to go through some uncomfortable places at times to find purpose. It's not always in the beauty of things and the pleasantries of life and the, yumminess of our experiences that we find the bliss of life. But it's in those tough places. It's in those, when, as people say, when you're down and out, you find some of the most beautiful establishments that have been erected, because it was someone when they were in their moment of weakness or in their moment of vulnerability or their moment of hurt, they looked and saw, they were in pain and they saw what the world was in need of. And so for you, you saw what the world was in need of. Maybe it was because of your daughter who wanted to hear those stories and it was always there, but it went through, you had to go through some sort of challenge and stretching and, learning in a different manner and renewing your mind in a different manner so that you can unlock the abundance within you. And I think that's just a wonderful thing. I think that's a beautiful example of how when we aren't so we aren't so what is the word I'm hung on our own way of doing things, our own plans, where we can really unlock abundance when we say, okay, God, this is not about myself. This is about what you are wanting to do through me, in me, in this community, in these children's lives, because we have children who don't even get to hear stories the way you tell the stories to help them, as far as their development and asking the right questions and understanding that they can be imaginative. And so we're going to talk about that. Reading is often associated with fostering creativity and imagination. And how do you approach your writing process or writing? How do you approach your writing to inspire these qualities in young readers? And what advice can you offer to parents and educators looking to do the same thing?
Okay. I would say yes, because reading, it opens up the creative mind, right? And so I remember when I
Mhm.
was growing up, I read so many different books, right? And it made me want to know more about a particular subject, like I mentioned earlier, just like it opens you up to so many things. And so I was able to tie it in with life, and life experiences. And so sometimes those stories are created because of maybe my inner child, right? The things that I wasn't able to uh, uh, experience or know about, but through a book I was able to understand. And so reading, of course, helping you learn, but helping you learn in every facet of your life. And I want to, let kids know that, hey, you know what? Reading helps you learn every single thing, whether it's math, science, history, art. Um, Reading helps you understand. So yeah, I was thinking like when I was younger,
And so you
reading
were
was so
sharing. Mhm.
yes, reading was so fundamental, and I realized the stories came from like whether it was a book, life experiences, or things that I would see in my community, in my neighborhood, or just even on like a field trip or something like that, right?
Mhm.
And so once you realize how important reading is, even I was young, but I realized how it was able to help me comprehend in every aspect growing up. Math, science, reading,
Mhm.
history, right? It helped you, art, it helped you with every
Mhm.
possible, and also being able to comprehend it and use critical thinking. Reading helped with all of those things. And I don't think that, finding things, when children don't find things that interest them, they really don't want to read. And I think that for parents and
Mhm.
educators, each child they learn differently. And you have to understand that it's okay for them to learn differently, right? And if you find something they're interested in,
Mhm.
get them books about it. Then you find another interest that they have, get them books about it. Because that's the only way that it's going to open up that child's interest in reading. And then eventually they'll realize that, oh, okay, I need to read a book about this because I'm interested in this. And it won't necessarily be just those one or two things. It doesn't have to be 1,000 things, but if it's at least 20 things, that's a beautiful thing. So finding what they're
Mhm.
interested in, it makes a huge difference. And I think that, you know, I encourage my daughter to read at least 30 minutes to an hour a day. I mean, whatever it is. And I don't
Mhm.
always want her to read comic books, but she also has an interest in comic books, right? And so I was just like, okay, she
Yeah.
likes that. You know what I mean? Well, it's still reading, and
Mhm.
that's Um, and then of course, when I find interest in other things, she has other interests, and those are the books that I get her. But I also buy other books so that
Mm-hmm.
if she's not necessarily interested in it, it's there. Maybe she'll pick it up one day, and that's okay. And I think
Mm-hmm.
reading with your child, even when they're 8, 9, 10 years old. When I do a few readings at schools and things like that, I hear some of the kids that are about 8 or 9. They're like, "I'm not a baby. My mommy doesn't read to me." I was like, "Oh, well, I still read, to my daughter," and they're like, "She's not a baby." I was like, "Well,
Uh-huh.
that's kind of a bonding time for us, right? We get to talk. She gets to explain things, and I get to also
Mm-hmm.
understand things. So yeah, so that's what I would encourage
Mm-hmm.
parents, educators to really find something the children are interested in and realize they learn differently.
Exactly. And not trying, I mean, yeah, not forcing everybody to be on that same cutter, experience. I have two boys myself, and they have their own taste in books. But at the same time, I see how their tastes still, coexist together and stuff like that, where they can still share their love for comics. They're into comics as well, and other types of genres that
Mhm.
catches their attention. Now, me, I'm an information hound. Rarely do I have books just for pleasure. Like there's this one book that I read called Sophie's Heart, but other than that,
Mhm.
it's more of okay. I'm needing to learn about just whatever I'm wanting to learn about instead of just hey, I'm lollygagging. Let me get my beach read on. No, but I do have these books so that when my children are ready to take their reading to the next level or what they're learning about or what they are interested in, I have this books available for them in order for them to easily have access to. So always having a plethora or diverse books to read and all those things, and it helps break stereotype too. It helps
Yes.
change, I feel like how they show up in the world, how they show up in the community, how they show up for themselves. They break their own way of thinking about who they are. It builds confidence in them as well. It builds confidence in their abilities, and all these things. And I hear about a lot of inclusive books, that are
Yeah.
being written or putting on bookshelves so that children can see themselves in the books. They can see
Yeah.
their experiences and how other people are maneuvering throughout life and how they are breaking free from whatever barrier that they was confined to. Your mission not only involve writing but also traveling and being with family. And so that's my whole, three words that I really love: business, purpose, and family. And so finding your I can in these areas, how do these aspects of your life influence your writing and your message about the importance of reading for children?
I would say that traveling, um, it's one of those things that you realize that their world is bigger than the place that where you are. It's a lot more happening
Mm,
sometimes.
mm-hmm,
uh, you realize that okay, this is not the only place there is to be, and traveling. I think that it's good
mm-hmm,
for children also just to go out with their parents and see the world, because the world is bigger than just
mm-hmm,
the space where we are, right? And once you realize that there are other people
mm-hmm,
who are experiencing life, sometimes in the same way, but sometimes in different ways than you're experiencing, whether it's a different culture, whether it's different food, right? Whether it's different history, um, we should be open to learning about those things. And I think it's absolutely
mm-hmm,
imperative for kids to travel. And this is, of course, not to
mm-hmm.
knock Disney or anything like that, but like, you know, it's more than Disney World or Disneyland out there. There's so much
Yeah.
more. And there's
Mm-hmm,
nothing wrong with taking them there. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with that. But it's okay
mm-hmm,
to take them to uh,
mm-hmm,
Italy. It's okay to take them to Greece. It's okay to take them to Africa. It's okay to do those things. Um, you want them to be uh, well read, and well traveled. you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that being able to share that for me helps me, of course, bond with my child, but it also helps me write as well. I think because I it gives me a sense of
Mm-hmm.
peace when I'm traveling. It gives me because I don't travel to have like chaos, right? I travel because I want to see things, I want to experience,
Mm-hmm.
and those experiences help me with how I'm feeling about what I've seen, what I've heard, what I've learned, right? And so sometimes putting that
Mm-hmm.
into onto paper, right, or onto the computer, and so it just makes for a better. Because sometimes I still write. I write on paper because sometimes it's just easier. I can type
Yeah.
it up later.
Uh-huh.
You have a thought. Sometimes I don't want it in my phone. I want it to where I can see it on the paper, and I'm like, oh yeah, this looks good. But
Exactly. Yeah.
so I mean, it helps. It helps me create not just for children, but also just for people in general. And I realize that traveling it's imperative. It is absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the question that we all want to know is
Mhm.
what's your I can to you, realizing your I can in purpose, business, and family? What is that to you?
Okay, I read the book. I'm going to show you something because I read right. I had a lot going on. I
Okay.
was reading, so um, my listen, like we said, when you're trying to understand, you're trying to get information, you're trying to see how things relate to you, right? I sometimes I'm a tab person, sometimes I'm
Mm-hmm.
a house person, right? Okay. Um, but my I
Mm-hmm.
can is truly that I am capable, right? And I think sometimes
Mm-hmm.
that we don't realize because we limit ourselves because we allow other people to limit us.
Mm-hmm.
um and so we
Mm-hmm.
do sometimes lack that confidence and don't realize how great God has made you and how capable he has made you
Ooh wee.
you know
Mm-hmm.
and I had to
Mm-hmm.
really understand that it is okay to know that I'm capable. It is okay to walk in my
Mm-hmm.
capabilities because he is giving me this. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes because you're not sure or it's a different area in life, he has given you this gift. And you have to be okay that this gift came from him and it's okay for you to use this gift. And so um
Yeah.
I had to realize that, honestly. I had to realize that I am capable and more than capable of what other people see me as and also what I see myself as. So yeah, that is what my I can is. I am absolutely
Mm-hmm.
capable.
And you are, and you're showing that, and you are allowing other, you're allowing to realize those capabilities as well. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for sharing your I can with us and what it looks like and how it has unfolded, and how you are embracing it, because that's the next step to, reclaiming your life, right? It's embracing your new, embracing where you are, embracing where you're going. Because when you're always at fight, when you're always wrestling, it's going to put you at a, farther from your destiny, farther from your
Yeah.
purpose, because you're fighting against it. You're going to relapse into an old way of thinking, and you will never come into your full potential. And I feel like, listening to you, it seems as if, I mean, because you're glowing when you're talking about it, you have come into, tapping into your full potential and understanding the power of your writing, the power of your pen, and how, there are children. And then when parents get a hold of your books as well, it opens them up, their imagination as well. It opens up their ability to dream again, to hope again, and to know that, hey, I can still, realize my dreams and parent, because you've
Yes.
done it. And you're sharing that here today. You can still realize, your purpose and still parent well. You could take them on the ventures with you. You could take them on the journey with you. You don't have to choose. Whoever
Yes.
feel like they have to choose between parenting and business, I want you to know, and we are wanting you to know, you do not have to choose. God will give you the capacity to merge both worlds together. You don't have to be at war with, one or the other. Well,